Palestinians amid an alarming humanitarian situation triggered off by an all-out blockade. US President Donald Trump has arrived in Saudi Arabia in what will be the first stop of a 3-day tour that will also see him visit Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Mariam Bershi. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has held one-on-one talks with his Slovenian counterpart, Mrs. Nataša Pirc-Musar, extended to members of the delegations of both countries. This came as part of President Tebboune's 2-day stay to visit to Slovenia at the invitation of his Slovenian counterpart. The President of the Republic and the Prime Minister of Slovenia, Robert Golob, supervised the signing ceremony of the cooperation agreements signed between Algeria and Slovenia. Earlier, President Tebboune was welcomed upon arrival at the presidential palace of Ljubljana by the Slovenian president in an atmosphere of mutual understanding between the heads of state, accompanied on the occasion by a significant delegation of businessmen. The head of state will also meet the Slovenian Prime Minister, Mr. Robert Golob, the President of the National Assembly, Mrs. Urška Klakočar Zupančič, and the President of the National Council, Mr. Marko Lotric. This visit of President Tebboune comes after the one paid by the Slovenian Prime Minister to Algiers in May 2024, during which several agreements were signed. On the occasion, the President of the Republic will also preside over the opening of the Algerian-Slovenian Economic Forum, dedicated to examining ways and means to strengthen economic and trade relations and exploring all the opportunities available, especially in light of the significant development and positive dynamics that bilateral relations have experienced in recent years, as a concrete expression of the strong will and shared aspirations of the leaders of both countries. Algeria and Slovenia have developed a close and positive relationship over the recent years, marked by a shared commitment to strengthening bilateral and multilateral cooperation. Asabekar reports.
The Algeria-Slovenia Evolving Partnership is driven by the political will of both nations to deepen their ties across various fields. The two countries have taken significant steps in recent years, including opening embassies in each other's capitals and increasing high-level visits. They coordinate closely on international matters as they both serve as non-permanent members at the United Nations Security Council. Algeria and Slovenia share similar views on key regional and global issues, advocating for peace solutions and cooperation. They are united in supporting the Palestinian cause and advocating for a just resolution to the Western Sahara conflict, emphasizing the principle of self-determination for peoples. The relationship has been further strengthened through high-level diplomatic exchanges. In 2023, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf visited Slovenia, highlighted the potential to elevate their partnership. Similarly, Slovenian Prime Minister Robert Golob's visit to Algeria in May 2024 resulted in the signing of several bilateral agreements covering energy, environment, education, and scientific research. Parliamentary cooperation has also grown with the establishment of the Algeria-Slovenia Friendship Group in 2022 and visits paid by parliamentary leaders. Slovene Parliament President visited Algeria recently, reaffirming the two countries' shared values and support within the United Nations framework. Overall, Algeria and Slovenia are committed to expanding their strategic partnership driven by mutual respect, shared values, and a common vision to address international challenges collaboratively.
The Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Ibrahim Bughali, has held talks in Jakarta with the Speaker of the House of Representatives of Indonesia, Mrs. Puan Maharani. The details in this report by Ms. Hodsharfi.
The two parties examined ways and means of promoting bilateral relations in various fields, notably in promoting parliamentary cooperation and strengthening coordination between the two countries in various fora in the best interest of both parties. The Speaker of the Assembly shared his will to promote bilateral parliamentary cooperation to a level that reflects the depth of historical ties between the two countries, affirming that the Algerian people's gratitude for Indonesia's support in its fight against colonialism. terrorism. Mr. Boughali also stressed that strengthening economic cooperation was a major priority that could boost relations between the two countries. He recalled the reforms undertaken by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, to shift to a knowledge-based economy and to contribute to the creation of wealth thanks to a favorable investment climate. Ms. Puan Maharani, for her part, stressed the importance of promoting economic cooperation between the two countries, expressing her full readiness to develop parliamentary relations with Algeria and to support the effort made by the two countries to establish close and fruitful relations. The meeting also provided an opportunity to discuss the Palestinian cause and the tragic situation faced the Palestinian people, with both countries stressing the need to strengthen coordination between the parliaments of Muslim countries in order to call for an immediate ceasefire and deliver emergency aid to the Gaza Strip.
In Libya, the government of national unity has announced that it had regained control of the situation of the entire Abu Salim area south of the capital Tripoli, where clashes between armed groups left 6 dead. The details in this report by Masoud Sharfi.
The Ministry of Defense of the Government of National Unity was quoted by the Libyan news agency LANA as saying the military operation has ended successfully and that it had given instructions to complete its plan in the region to ensure lasting security and stability. The head of the Government of National Unity, Abdelhamid Dbeiba, affirmed that recent developments in Tripoli proved the state's institutions can protect the nation and uphold citizens' dignity, stressing that only the state institutions holding legitimate authority. The UN support mission in Libya expressed deep concern over intense fighting in populated areas and urged all the parties to cease the hostilities and protect civilians. It also voiced support for local efforts to restore calm and warned that attacks on civilians could be considered war crimes.
The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has warned that the process launched to make the UN more effective would require painful changes, particularly in terms of staff cuts, insisting on the need for these reforms. In March, Mr. Guterres launched the UN 80 initiative aimed at improving the effectiveness of the United Nations, which is facing chronic budgetary constraints following the new policies of US President Donald Trump. Before the member states, Guterres presented the progress achieved since the launch of UN 80.
As indicated in my letter of 11 March, the UN 80 initiative is structured around 3 key work streams. First, we are striving to rapidly identify efficiencies and improvements in the current arrangements. Second, we are reviewing the implementation of all mandates given to us by member states. And third, we are undertaking consideration of the need for structural changes and program realignment across the UN system. This process is not a way to weaken our commitment to the values and principles of the UN and to accept a weakening of multilateralism. On the contrary, this process is a process that aims to increase our capacity to make the Charter more relevant at global level, to make international law more respected. This process is not a process to replace the Agenda 2030 or the Pact for the Future.
Mr. Guterres mentioned the possibility of relocating offices from New York and Geneva to less expensive cities. The first African Union Conference on Debt has opened in Lomé, Togo. Mr. Charfi reports.
This high-level conference to last 2 days is held under the theme The African Agenda for Public Debt Management, Restoring and Preserving Debt Sustainability. It aims to explore sustainable and sovereign solutions to address the continent's growing debt burden. The event, organized by the AU Department of Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry and Mining, brought together over 500 participants, including heads of state, finance minister, central bank governors, development partners, and civil society representatives. The chairperson of the AU Commission, Moussa Faki Mohamed, stressed the urgency of promoting rigorous public debt governance supported by a strong African solidarity and balanced dialogue with international creditors. According to the UN Economic Commission for Africa (ECA), over 20 African countries are in debt distress or at high risk. The conference will address debt restructuring, sustainable financing, transparency transparency, governance, and illicit financial flows. The conference is expected to conclude with the Lomé Declaration defining a common African position on debt management and guiding future reforms.
Moving on to the situation in the Middle East, the Israeli army has pursued its bombardments of the Gaza Strip, killing several Palestinians, including one journalist. He was killed in the bombardments of the Nasser Medical Complex in the southern town of Khan Yunis, while he was received care for wounds sustained during a previous attack. The continued pounding of Gaza came amid an alarming humanitarian situation, triggered off by an all-out blockade imposed by the Israeli occupying authorities on the territory for over 2 months. The Israeli blockade has been preventing the entry of aid into the territory, depriving the Palestinian population of food, fuel and medical care. In this connection, the General Commissioner of UNRWA, Philip Lazzarini, announced the use of humanitarian aid in Gaza, where he stressed famine is spreading and the population is starving. Addressing media, he stressed that unless aid entered Gaza in the coming days, he expected the people in Gaza to die because of lack of food rather than bombardments. In a similar move, the representative of the World Health Organization in the occupied Palestinian territories, Rick Pippercorn, warned against the rise in famine and malnutrition. He told the press briefing that over 2 months-long blockade on Gaza is starving the population, or the Palestinian population.
We all watched the launch of the IPC, and the risk of famine in Gaza is increasing with deliberate withholding of humanitarian aid, including food, in the ongoing blockade. This is one of the world's worst hunger crises, and it unfolds to us in real time. Since the aid blockade began on 2 March 2025, we get reports from the Ministry of Health that 55 children have reportedly died from the effects of malnutrition. And if the situation persists again, this dire situation persists, nearly 71,000 children under the age of 5 are expected to be acutely malnourished over the next 11 months. So what we actually see in Gaza, people are trapped in this whole cycle where a lack of diversified food, while malnutrition and disease fuel each other. WHO calls for the protection of healthcare, for immediate end to the aid blockade, which is starving people, obstructing their right to health, and robbing them of dignity.
That was a representative of the World Health Organization in the occupied Palestinian territories, Rick Pippercorn. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has hailed the Kurdistan Workers' Party PKK's dissolution and disarmament. During a UN press briefing, the Secretary-General's spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric said that Mr. Guterres held the decision, if implemented, represents another important step towards the peaceful resolution of a long-standing conflict. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for his part, held an important decision for the safeguarding of peace and brotherhood in Turkey. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he will only attend talks on Ukraine this week if Russia's Vladimir Putin is also there. US President Donald Trump's senior envoys Steve Witkoff and Keith Kellogg will travel to Istanbul, Turkey for potential talks on Thursday on how to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Both Russia and Ukraine have sought to show they are working towards peace after Trump prioritized ending the war, but they have yet to agree on a clear path. US President Donald Trump has arrived in Saudi Arabia in what will be the first stop of a 3-day tour that will take him to Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has greeted Trump upon his arrival in Riyadh. The White House says Trump is making a historic return to the Middle East, the first official state visit of his second presidency, where he will concentrate on strengthening ties. The first international forum on the Algerian foreign policy and the non-aligned movement ended yesterday at the A1 Jazeera Hotel here in Algiers. The 2-day conference was marked by the participation of several international experts and university professors coming from all over the world. Our reporter, Wahib Amiri, who covered the event, met with Isabel Lukarenko, a researcher from the University of Porto from Portugal, who told her about her participation.
My participation in this very important conference is to highlight the new forms of resistance on digital and social media. So, as an example, I was speaking about the Palestinian cause and how Palestinian influencers circumvent the censorship of the social media platforms. I believe that this very important conference on non-alignment is very, very important in the actual context of the geopolitics and the shift of powers in the world. It also addresses not only the non-alignment movement as a thing of the past, but the new path that it can have in the current world and how it can readapt and develop in a way to represent better the people of the South.
Our reporter also met with Beatriz Bicio, participant from the University of Rio de Janeiro, who for her part presented her research about the possible similarities existing between the non-aligned movement and the BRICS today.
This is a great opportunity to exchange our researches with professors, Algerian professors, and all over the world too. My research is dedicated to the possibility of having similar objectives in the proposals of the non-aligned movement and the BRICS nowadays. Through my research, I have proved, I think, that the proposal that was the main way the non-aligned movement tried to have its voice heard by the world in relation to the development of what was called Third World, has similar proposal in BRICS, which is nowadays trying to create alternatives to the institutionalized World Bank, the FMI.
Let's recall that the event was an opportunity for the signing of contracts between the University of Algiers and the two universities from Portugal and Brazil. And now I invite you to listen to an interview conducted by my colleague Essia Bakar with the director of the energy portfolio of the German cooperation agency GIZ Algeria, Mrs. Elisabeth Gaga, on the Taqati Plus project implementation contract, which was signed last month.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome on the waves of Radio Algeria International. The Taqati Plus implementation contract was signed last month with the aim of speeding up the rollout of renewable energy, developing green hydrogen, and promoting innovative solutions for energy efficiency. 28 million euros are funded by the European Union, 13 million of which are contributed by Germany. The Taqati Plus project is managed by the Algerian Ministry of Energy, Mines and Renewable Energies and implemented by the German cooperation agency GIZ Algeria. To talk more about the Taqati Plus project, we are honored to have in our studio the director of the energy portfolio at the German cooperation agency GIZ Algeria, Ms. Elisabeth Gager. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thanks a lot for the invitation, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So, Ms. Gager, the Taqati Plus project aims to enhance renewable energies and green hydrogen in addition to reducing emissions and gas flaring, among other goals. Could you tell us more about the Taqati Plus project?
Yes, of course. The Taqati Plus project is a project that's mandated by the German government and the European Union, and in very close cooperation with the Ministry for Energy, Mines and Renewable Energy. And actually, it's the flagship program of the German, EU, and Algerian energy cooperation when it comes to technical cooperation. And it aims to support the Algerian energy transition towards a more sustainable, inclusive, and climate-resilient energy model. So the project focuses on renewable energy, as I said, but it also focuses on the ramp up of a new green hydrogen market, and we also work on energy efficiency, so classic energy efficiency, if you like to put it that way, in the building sector. But also we work on reducing methane emissions in the gas sector. Yeah, so in total, we do technical cooperation, and this with a total budget of 28 million euros, and we're going to stick around until 2029.
Okay, so before we start our recording, you told me about the difference between Taqati and Taqati Plus. Can you explain that for our listeners?
So the difference between Taqati, so the former name of the program or project, and Taqati Plus, how it's called now, is actually that the European Union just joined the program. So the program was initiated in 2022 between Algeria and Germany. And implemented by GIZ. But now it's been joined, as I said, by the European Union. So it's a plus project now with a little with more funding, but also with more topics. So we added now energy efficiency and methane reductions, and we also work more deeply on renewable energy and on green hydrogen issues.
Okay. So Algeria and Europe, due to their geographic proximity, have always been partners, cooperating closely in the energy sector, especially oil and gas. Now we see not a shift, but a continuation of this cooperation in renewables. So how far does the Taqati Plus project align with Algerian and European energy and climate goals? And is the geographic proximity important in renewables as it has been in fossil energies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Taqati Plus actually is very much aligned with both sides and both strategies because, of course, we also we are fully aligned with the Algerian national strategy for renewable energy, so the 15 gigawatt renewable energy goal until 2035, but also with the national strategy for the deployment or ramp up of hydrogen. So where, for instance, Algeria wants to also export or actually provide 10% for hydrogen
to Europe.
Use to Europe by 2040. So, and this is something we support through our activities that we're doing, so be it like studies or trainings and so on. Of course, on the other side, we have also clear strategies from the European Union when it comes to the Green Deal, but also, of course, national climate change strategies, decarbonization strategies from Germany. Mm-hmm. Where we actually also contribute, of course, through this cooperation. Yeah.
Okay. So, Ms. Gaker, the Taqati project will support Algeria in its energy transition until 2029, as you said earlier. Yes. What are the major stages of its implementation, and how is it going to be on the ground?
The major stages, so we, as I said, we started in 2022, mainly on renewable energy and green hydrogen. So the co-financed phase now began in February 2025, and we're going to accelerate the implementation efforts over the next 4 years with a strong focus on regulatory frameworks, capacity development, pilot projects that are also scalable and also reproducible. So that it's only not one single-off project, but also that can be repeated later on. And of course, public-private cooperation. So it's also very important for us is really to build capacities amongst our direct partners, but also larger target groups, and also to do the right studies where more studies are needed, and also give technical recommendations and cooperation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. So Algeria has demonstrated commitment to boosting green hydrogen capacities for local use and exportation, of course. There is Taqati Plus funded by the EU. There's also the South H2 corridor, or the Southern Hydrogen Corridor project, which Algeria joined in January, and the pipeline is going to start from Algeria to emit, from Algeria to reach Germany. So how will Algeria's involvement in projects like Taqati and the South H2 corridor enhance its ability to meet its green hydrogen development goals and to align with the vision of Germany and the EU?
So what we can offer through the Taqati Plus project is actually to also give some advised some studies on also technical questions, economic questions, potential questions around the corridor, or also other projects when it also comes to the deployment of, for instance, Power-to-X, so also the production of other derivatives in the green hydrogen section. So this is how we can support. This also gives the opportunity or some more knowledge to the Algerian partners to also coordinate in the South H2 corridor or other projects.
Yeah, so you mean that the exchange of experience and expertise is going to play a major role?
Yes, that's our role within Takati Plus, and that what we can offer, of course, to our Algerian partners, and we hope it's gonna help actually too.
Hopefully. So now, what are the challenges that may face green hydrogen development in Algeria?
So I think, first of all, Algeria has a very good potential because we have a lot of potential for renewable energy production, be it through solar energy or be it through wind energy. But also there is space available. And of course, you already mentioned the proximity to Europe. So there is quite a good potential. But of course, nowadays, so it's a new market. It's not yet established, so there is a lot of questions to be sorted out at the moment. So for instance, talked about technology before, so which kind of technologies can be used, where the best sites for hydrogen projects. How can, for instance, the existing pipeline be used for the transport when it comes to exportation, but also like which derivatives would be interesting to produce also through PTX. So there's a lot of technical and economic questions that are sorted out right now. And I think it's important to develop those kind of questions and the responses to the questions further.
Mm-hmm. Many points need to be clarified.
Exactly. So it's a new market, not yet existing market in a lot of countries. And of course, every new market needs some questions to be clarified.
Of course, yeah. So Mr. Georg Faisam, the German ambassador to Algeria, said Algeria and Germany are strong partners in renewable energy and green hydrogen. How might this strengthened partnership impact renewable energy and green hydrogen projects in the region?
Yeah, I think Germany has a lot of experience already in renewable energy. So I think, and this is also a part of our work in Takati Plus, right? So to actually also make use of experience that has been made in other countries, such as in Germany, and also to base our advice to our Algerian partners on this experience, to have knowledge transfer, and to also, of course, coordinate further on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you mean that North-South cooperation is very important to meet the energy goals?
I think it's very important that there is a cooperation around the Mediterranean and between Algeria and North Africa and also Europe. Not only the Mediterranean, but also Germany, of course. So I think it's can be a good point, this exchange to foster the development of green energy and of decarbonization on both sides of the Mediterranean. Yeah.
Okay, so now how do you see the future of energy cooperation between Algeria and Europe? And will cooperation in renewables be as strong as it is in the oil and gas sector?
This is a very good question at this point. I mean, we're going to see how it's going to develop. At least what I can say from the point from GIZ and our cooperation projects is that we deepen our work, our cooperation on renewable energy and green hydrogen, and we do our best to foster a green transition and to reduce also CO2 reductions. So, and I hope that this is also going